Hey there. So last time we worked on this, we had created this login thingy here that basically lets us do log.debug info warning and error. And it was pretty cool to work on to learn the language. But there is just one small issue with it, is that this here is a local variable. And if we want to use this logger from outside our current scope, we need to either pass it to each scope that we want to log from, or we'll need to set this as a global variable somewhere in some zig file, and then include that zig file everywhere. So I did some research on how this could be solved, and I actually was pleasantly surprised to find that in the Zig language, there is this thingy here in the standard library called, so see if I do this, std.log. And this std.log is the standard interface for login in Zig. So we basically need to pass it a log function in this std options public constant that needs to be declared in the root source. And the way it's used is that we can just call std.log debug, std.log info from any scope that we want to be in. What's more is it handles actually, it can return scoped loggers. So we can create a scoped logger using this call here, std.log scoped, by passing it the scope name. And that basically creates a scoped logger to that scope. And then we can just continue using that scope as we do normally, without having to worry about adding the scope in our format and passing arguments for our scope, which is pretty cool. So I want to actually replace what we did here with our logger with what Zig lets us do out of the box. So let's try to do that first and see where we end up. So first here I'll create a, so I need to create the serial writer. So let's create that here. And this here would be, since I can't init this in comp time, I'll need to set it to as a nullable. And this would be serial writer and writer, I think we've called that. And this, let's initialize this to null. And of course here we can, or we should go ahead and do serial is import of, what's it called? Serial.zig, I think. Yep. All right. And now we need to create the function. I'll call it log function. I'll need to copy the argument it takes. So it seems to me that it takes comp time level. Actually, do I have source for this? Yes. Right, so we can just go ahead and copy this function from here, and let's put that there. And I think it returns nothing, so can just do it this way. Let me just check that. Yeah, it returns void. And if we go back to our example here, so how did they implement this? So they created a scope prefix, and then they created a prefix which is the level between brackets and the scope prefix, and then they printed just prefix plus the format, and they include the character return in there. Okay, looks pretty simple, I think. So let's get started with that. Right, so first thing we'd want to do is check that we have an actual writer. So const writer would be so serial out, or else just return, just bail out. If we don't have a writer here, we just bail out, right? And this here would need to be std.log level, I think. Yeah, it looks okay. Right, okay, so we have the writer. So let's first create const scope prefix, I think. And this, the way we'll do this is, so let's just take a look at what they did. So basically they created a text. So they used tag name to get the name of the scope, and then they put it between parentheses. So let's do that also. So I'll do this. So that plus tag name of scope, and to that we add a close-end parenthesis. Right, and then we'll create a prefix, which would be just, so how do we want this? I think we'd like to do something like brackets, tag name of, or actually, do we have, let me just rename this to level. So do we have something? Okay, so we have as text. And this, of course, we need to mark as comp time, although we should be fine. And then we'll put in the closing bracket. And then to that, we'll add maybe a space there and add scope prefix. Yeah, that looks okay. So what's the problem there? Okay, unused. Cool. And here we'll actually need to do so writer dot print, and to that we are going to pass our format, which is prefix, and then format, and then a just carriage return, I think would be cool, and then the arguments, and that pretty much looks okay. So what does print return? It returns a void or an error. So we can just do catch return, basically. Yep, looks good. So we also need to initialize the serial out variable that we've created. So we'll create a public function, call it init. This public function here would need to take a comp time, port of type serial port, and it should return void. Right, so here we can just do serial out is equal to serial writer init with port, I think. What does this do? Okay, so just a serial writer, I think, and that means that here we are going to need to rename this serial writer, and here we can do const writer is serial writer dot writer. There we go. I think that looks pretty okay. So let's go back to our main file. So we are going to need to change these. So let's do debug. This one would be info. This one would be warn. And this one stays error, I think. And to these, we should add std dot. Right. Okay, so here we are not using this logger anymore, and we are not using this serial writer either. So let's go ahead and just call logger.init and pass it serial.port.com1, for example. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, we should not forget to add that public const std options, I think, of type std.options. Compile it and see. And to this, we should set log fn to be so logger.log fn, and we should also not forget to set the log level to be debug in our case. Actually, let's set it to info for now. Just want to try something. Oops. So let's do that. Actually, can we force it to put it on multiple lines? Yes, we can. Right, so let's build this and see what we have. Okay, what is it not liking? Oh yeah, okay, right. So these methods here don't really return an exception, so we should just do something like this. I think all of these are just void methods, yes, which is very nice, very cool. So let's just do that and rebuild this. Okay, let's run this and see. Okay, very nice. Yeah, actually, hold on. I think I know what's wrong there. Yeah. So in our in the logger that we've written, we haven't handled this. We haven't added the new line automatically. So since this one does it for us, we can just go ahead and remove that. And let's rebuild and rerun this. And we can see that we have maybe just add a space between the scope and the message itself. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. That should be somewhere here. Yeah. So if we just add a space here, which should be pretty good. Right. And actually, I want to do something else here. So let me just try something. So const scope switch on scope, and we can do so default log or std log default so default log scope, and this will just return that. Else here we'd want to actually return this whole thing here. So let me just pull that over here. And I think we should be okay. Right, and this I can rename scope prefix, and we can remove that. So how is this? Let's see what they did again. So yeah, that looks pretty okay to me. So I just don't want to have the default scope be printed over and over again. So let's just rerun that and see. And there we go. That looks pretty good to me. Let's now try, just fairly quickly, try to create a scoped logger here and see what we get. So const scoped log is std.log.scoped, and it takes a scope. I'll just call it my scope. There we go. And here we can do scoped log.info. Scoped info. And of course, we shouldn't forget about this. Oops. And this would be, there we go. Oh, right. So let's go here again. And one thing I forgot to say is that since we've set the log level to info, we are not getting the debug message, this one here. So now that we know that it works, we can just go ahead and do debug here and go back and build this again, and we'll see what we have. And look at that. So we have the level, we have the scope name, and we have the message afterwards. And now we also have the debug message with the correct argument. Cool. So with this, we should be sorted on login. This is just something that I found interesting when I was reading the Zig documentation. So I'm pretty stoked it worked out as well as it did.